Yo, big ups, people. Good. No, it's not. It's the afternoon. 12:02. I was just about to say good morning, but it's actually the afternoon. So good afternoon. I just had my breakfast, so I'm kind of a bit late today. I should have done a Villareal reaction video the other day on a Thursday night, but I was sort of too depressed, even though it was kind of expected. I was just sort of like too depressed to go live, so I just ended up watching loads of YouTube content, and sort of got therapy through lots of other people. But yeah, well, we wake up on Friday morning. I'm expecting a strong move from the club. I don't know why, but I'm expecting a strong move from the club, given the situation, given the fact that Arsenal are now, what is it, ninth in the league, and out of the Europa League in the semi-final. You're expecting the club to do something, and they did nothing. Um, I don't know. Maybe that was hope more than anything, but I suppose it's just in keeping with the general pattern of the Kroenkes and Vinay and Edu and all these other wastemen who really. It's an experiment from top to bottom. Kroenke's not an experiment because Kroenke knows what he's doing. He's got St. Louis. He's got Denver Nuggets. Everyone there hates him, by the way. I was watching some content I think it was yesterday. I was watching some content talking about how everybody wants his head on a freaking stick over there. So it's just like, wow, this guy. But I think really he's just sat in a corner watching American sports. I think that's more of his interest. And whatever happens over here doesn't really matter. I mean, I thought the silver lining, or of the whole situation with Villarreal was that surely Arteta will be sacked in the morning, but that didn't happen. And as the day went on yesterday, and we got to the afternoon, he did another press conference. It became clear that he's staying. I know that the club has been planning since February-ish for next season, transfer kitty, player selection, targets, all this kind of stuff. They've already been planning this for months and months. So sacking Arteta now will bring that into disarray. And fundamentally, that's really fucking lazy. I mean, how much worse does it need to get? I don't know how far low this club needs to drop before the hierarchy decide to make a change. It's really quite staggering. I mean, Wenger and Emery, with this set of players, would have got us at least challenging for top four. I'm not sure they would have got us into the top four because of the squad that we've got when compared to Man City, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, even though they've underachieved, even Leicester. I don't think West Ham, but certainly that's what, five, six clubs already that this squad is worse than. But the sign of a good manager, or sign of a great manager, is overachieving. Alex Ferguson did it, especially in his last few years. Then you saw when he left how it kind of fell apart. To a degree, Wenger was doing it, but at the same time, Wenger was only like 3 years ago. Still, it's kind of hard to believe. It's almost hard to believe that we had Emery last season. Technically, that's crazy to me. I mean, I suppose with the whole COVID situation, like my time perception has gone totally off kilter. But yeah, but going forward, which top experienced manager is going to come to Arsenal with no Europe, and players? Which players and manager is going to come to Arsenal with no Europe, a completely manic, crazed fan base baying for blood? I mean, you know that you've got a few months, and then the fans are going to turn on you and go crazy again. And to be honest with you, that's not such a bad thing right now. I think we need to recapture the elite club mentality. There's way too many people in our fan base who have got quite comfortable with where we are, or sort of like quite comfortable with a long-term vision. And that's not how it works. I mean, look at when Tuchel were coming to Chelsea. Chelsea were, I think they were even level with us on points. If not, they were like maybe a point ahead of us. So look at the massive difference now. We've slipped right down to 10th. They're in a Champions League final and an FA Cup final and pushing for top four, which I think they'll get. It looks like Leicester are going to bottle it again, and West Ham might even sneak in there. So that would be quite fun. But yeah, I mean, West Ham's another one. Squad isn't as good as ours. I mean, they've got David Moyes. He's somehow coming back into his own. I think he's found his level, because this was kind of the level that he achieved with Everton all those years ago. I don't think he can do much better than this, but he seems to be quite good. If he's given a squad of players at a certain level, he can take them to like fourth, and this sort of thing. So, yeah, which elite players are going to come and help us climb up the table? Hopefully, we're going to lose a lot of players. We know that Bayern's going to go. Ceballos is going to go. And hopefully following them, there'll be the likes of Xhaka, Chambers, at the very least, possibly Lacazette. Yeah, I mean, and that's just the start. So, I mean, there's the rebuilding job that we've got to do. I don't see how we can really do it if we've got no Europe and we're in 10th and we're just becoming an increasing laughing stock. I mean, if you're a player, like, especially if you're of the age where you're sort of 27, 28, you're kind of in your peak, that's sort of your prime as a footballer. Although I guess it could be argued now, footballers, they last a bit longer, they've got a bit more sustainability. So, but it's around that age. Well, are you going to come to Arsenal? Unless you're a huge Arsenal fan yourself, it's not an attractive proposition anymore. I mean, we brought Partey in, and he sort of sacrificed a title challenge with Atleti for some bizarre reason to come to Arsenal. Well, that bizarre reason was the fact that Arsenal are actually quite a coveted club still. They're a big name. We are the third biggest club in the country, despite the fact that we are 10th. Chelsea, Spurs, especially, and Man City, the other sort of big six members, still have a long way to go to catch us up, despite the fact that, yeah, since the last 15 years, they've been pretty dominant. But, Chelsea had no history before 2004-3 when Abramovich came in, and Man City were playing like York City about 15 years ago. So they've got a long way to go to catch up. And let's hope that Man City win the Champions League. I mean, obviously Chelsea, we're not going to hear it. We're not going to hear the end of it from Chelsea fans if they do win. And also, like, that will put them on 2 Champions Leagues, and we've still got 0. So at least if Man City get it, they're on 1. And then that will put Chelsea, if Chelsea did win, that will put them 1 behind Man United. They're going to bend our ears about that, I tell you. And do you see us winning 2 Champions Leagues quickly in the next few years to catch them up? I don't think so. Unless there is some kind of revolution. And David Eck, who has gone a bit quiet recently, maybe he's drip feeding information. That is the right way to do it, but well, it remains to be seen at the moment. This guy could lead the revolution. Him, Henry, Bergkamp, and Vieira on the board. They're not going to put up with something like Arteta. They're not going to put up with some system like this, the crazy experiments, the random team selections. I think only once, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think only once in Arteta's entire 18 months has he played the same 11 twice in a row. It just beggars belief, man. It just beggars belief. Looking back at Villareal game, it's just, I mean, holding him, well, basically before the game, the lineup was giving me a meltdown. I think I did a quick 3-minute video. Yeah, it was just especially looking at the defense. I mean, yeah, we kept a clean sheet in the end, but Villareal didn't really try that hard. And Mari, I have kind of liked the look at him sporadically this season. He's basically is barely faster than Harry Maguire. Holding and Mari are both so slow. And it's not really about conceding goals because, yeah, they got the clean sheet, but it's all playing out from the back. I mean, we've had Luis in there. He can play out way better than any of our centre-backs. And sadly, that is missed. That is clearly missed. And now that isn't an argument for me to keep the Luis at all. But, we need a defensive player who can play like that. Holding and Mari aren't those players, and they are both turning like freighters. And he's just up against better opposition. They're just going to fail, obviously. Partey as well. Oh my God, against Villareal. I'm not even going to do player ratings. It's 2 days ago, and basically everyone gets maybe a 1. Everyone was just so deflated. Everyone was as deflated as the fans are after the game. I mean, a lot of YouTube commentators have said about us looking like we were the ones defending the lead. It was kind of crazy. I mean, I expected us I'm not surprised at the result, but I expected this to come out of the traps like the Slavia second leg, because our pattern is to do this. Our pattern of behaviour is that when the chips are down, when it's a do or die game, when it's like the biggest game of the season, this team produces, despite the fact that it's shit for the other 90% of the season. But for some reason, with the biggest games, they produce. FA Cup semi-final last year, FA Cup final last year, Chelsea at Christmas when Arteta's job was seriously on the line. Tottenham at home, the 2-1, one of the best performances of the season. The Slavia second leg. So I thought that, okay, so most of the time we are shit. And if anybody says to you, I don't know what Arsenal is going to turn up. No, you know what Arsenal is going to turn up. It's going to be a shit team. Other than when we play the big Man United, I guess you could say as well, is another example of this. You know, we beat them at Old Trafford and we played, well, the home game wasn't that great, but we didn't lose to them and they didn't threaten us. So for some reason, against the big teams, we turn up. And arguably, we did against Liverpool, but we just fell away. Lacazette should have put that chance away. But anyway, who cares about that? So, I mean, to see them start the game the way they did, like, so lackadaisical and so like it just didn't matter. I do not get it. The only thing I can kind of conclude is that this team is completely spineless. It's got to the point where even big games now can't motivate them. I mean, it says a lot about Arteta that he can't motivate them to play. So they need the occasion to motivate them. And that's worked up until Thursday. And even on Thursday, the occasion couldn't motivate them. And that's super damning, man. I don't know where we go from here. Well, where we go from here is we get rid of a lot of players and we have a revolution. We definitely, this is what we need to do. We need to have a revolution. It needs to start from the top. It needs to be a complete clean sweep, keeping players maybe like Saka, Smith Rowe, the youngsters, obviously Martinelli, Oba, Tierney, Leno, I suppose. Although if funds weren't an issue, I think we should go for another goalkeeper as well, but it's not a priority. And then rebuilding the defence around Gabriel, seeing how Saliba is, maybe rebuild the defence around those two, the central defence. Recall Guendouzi. Guendouzi, as much of a prat as he can be, he can't be that disruptive in the changing room. Now, I've heard this argument about Guendouzi, oh, he's a bit of a dickhead. He fucks about and pisses people off, and it's not good for the dressing room. Well, if that's true, then why did we have an over 90% undefeated record with Guendouzi starting in the team? For a long time, we had a 100% undefeated record with Guendouzi starting in the team. He said what he said against the Brighton players. He's a 19-year-old kid. He said some dickhead thing about being paid a lot of money when we played Brighton, and then was sent to the naughty step over in Germany, where apparently they don't like him much either because he's been a bit of a dick over there. I don't really care if he's that much of a dick, as long as if the team is still winning and the team is still playing well and it's got cut and thrust and it's got fire and it's got passion. That's what he brings to the team. And for me, I would recall him. He would be the first player I would recall, stick him in the team from next season, experiment with him in the team in the pre-season, and get a system that works with him in it. Because Emery was playing him all the time, and we finished like fifth. I mean, we really bottled it, obviously, in the last few games, dodgy Emery decisions. But at the end of the day, look, obviously, I don't want Man United to win the Europa League. It would be great for Emery to win it, but also, I've been supporting Arsenal since 1993, since I started supporting them. I actually grew up in Yorkshire, and I started supporting them because my cousins both supported Sheffield Wednesday. And in 1993, Arsenal beat Sheffield Wednesday in the Coca-Cola Cup, what was then the Coca-Cola Cup, i.e. League Cup final, and in the FA Cup final. And they hated Arsenal for this. They used to bang on about Arsenal all the time. And I was just getting into football, and I hadn't really picked a team yet. So I decided as a sort of bratty little kid to say to them that I supported Arsenal, just to sort of piss them off. And it just sort of stuck after that. So I've been supporting them since 1993, which is too many years that I care to do maths to calculate. But yeah, that's like, 28 years now, Jesus Christ. And so, yeah, I'm Arsenal to the bone, through and through. But on Thursday, there was a little bit of me that did feel a little bit of happiness for Unai Emery. with the way he was treated by the fans, the way he was treated by the media, essentially mocking an immigrant coming into this country who struggled with the dialect, who struggled with the not dialects, but who struggled with pronouncing English words and things like this. He was routinely mocked for this. I mean, imagine if the guy was, say, Indian, and he was being mocked for the way he spoke, or anything like this. So because he was a white Spanish dude, it didn't really matter. And I'm not about to sort of like, I'm not a person who goes on the whole kind of like looking at things through a sort of color lens, but I mean, it was kind of a bit bitterly ironic that people did that, and also absolutely unfair. The guy had the courage to come in and try to speak English. He knew fuck all English when he came here, and this was made abundantly clear. I mean, he even had a translator. Yeah, he did have a translator in his first few press conferences on hand, not even like Poch had, translating everything, but he had a translator on hand in case he couldn't understand things. So he was still trying to do it on his own. And for this, he got completely routinely mocked. And whilst it wasn't everything, I think there was a major, like the social media and media reaction to him and the fans' reaction to him, simply just around this ridiculous thing, like good evening and all this kind of stuff, and his way of speaking actually sort of filtered down to the players, and he started to get like word, and we started to hear stories coming out of the training ground that he was getting mocked by the players, and he was losing the players, he was getting mocked by the players. And then obviously he makes some tactical errors, and it all kind of compounds on itself, and the players stop playing for him. And once the players stop playing for you, you can be Pep Guardiola, you could be Jurgen Klopp. If they stop playing for you for whatever reason, then you are kind of fucked. So whilst I wouldn't bracket Emery in the sort of elite sphere of a Pep or a Klopp, he's certainly in that sort of next level down. He commands massive respect in Spain. I've spoken to quite a few Spanish fans who say exactly the same thing as this, and that he was completely mistreated. So yeah, I mean, you'd take Emery back now, wouldn't you, over Arteta? That's the sad, honest truth, really. I mean, of course you would. It's a no-brainer. If there was literally no other option, if you had the option of A, keep Arteta, or B, bring back Emery, you know what you're going to do. It's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, also in the game, look, with Arteta's, we're going to get to that substitution in a second. One substitution he should have made earlier. In fact, I don't think he made it at all. Did he bring Saka off? I can't remember. Maybe people can remind me in the comments. But Saka, he should have had the balls to hook Saka and bring on Martinelli, even at half time, if not at the very latest on 60 minutes. I can't remember who Martinelli came on for, but I don't think it was Saka. But Saka was having a terrible game, and this was he's had a few dodgy games recently. This is one of the reasons why I thought he should go to left back and concentrate more on that sort of defensive responsibility and that kind of creativity from left back down that channel with who I wanted to play in front of him and start Martinelli, who of course didn't start because it's Arteta who hates Martinelli. Martinelli has done something with Arteta's wife, I believe. That's actually not true, so please don't quote me, but it seems like something like that has happened. I don't know. It's answers on a postcard, because who knows why Martinelli, one of our best, most skillful, creative, and problematic players for the opposition, doesn't get played, apart from cameo 20 minutes here and there, half an hour. Actually, he got half an hour. I mean, bloody hell, he actually brought him on 60 minutes, which was quite a surprise. But yeah, and then we get to the moment in the game which basically summed Arteta up, summed it all up. Like Martin Tyler said, all those years ago when Tony Adams went through to secure the 4-0 win. I think that was the Invincible season, right? When Adams went through at good old Highbury, straight through on goal from nowhere, smashes it in the top corner, top bins, 4-0 to Arsenal, Invincible season complete. Martin Tyler's going there like, that sums it all up. And that substitution, Aubameyang, having just hit the post, having rose like prime CR7 to hit the post. I thought that was in, to be honest with you. I was out of my seat. But to hit the post and to then, a minute later, be walking off what must be going through Aubameyang's mind? You just leapt like a proper Ronaldo leap. So unlucky to hit the post. But I'm guessing, you want to, obviously you're so close. Twice you've hit the post. You think you're going to score. in that situation. You still think you're going to score. And a minute later, you're walking off the pitch and Willian's coming on. Fucking Willian's coming on. I don't know about anybody else watching this, but I absolutely lost my mind at this point. I mean, already I'd had the meltdown for the lineup, but that was my sort of second meltdown. I was resigned. Like for most of the game, I was kind of angry around sort of 65, 70 minutes because you could see what was coming, i.e. nothing. And then by the time it got to 80 minutes, 85 minutes, I got sort of, I suppose it's just resigned, and I don't know, I wouldn't call it calm. I mean, it was just sort of like a simmering anger, but it was simmering, you know, it wasn't boiling over, and you just kind of knew what was coming, and there's almost this air of acceptance. It's like, well, you know, we had this hope, and, you know, at the end of the day, it was just hope. It wasn't expectation. And there it goes, it's been extinguished. So how can you really get that mad? But no, Arteta knows how to trigger us just to get that little bit extra out of us, just to wring out that little bit extra bit of blood out of our causes to our Arsenal veins. And the sight of Aubameyang trudging off and Willian warming up. When I saw it, I don't know if everybody's camera angles was the same, but I saw Aubameyang coming off. I think I'd looked away from the screen. This is kind of how it worked for me. I'd looked away from the screen. I was looking at my phone or something. I looked up. I saw Aubameyang coming off, and I was like, And then I saw Willian coming on, and I was like, holy fuck, is this a real thing? I mean, is this reality? Maybe I'm actually dreaming. Maybe I've dreamt this whole game, because even Arteta couldn't do that. Imagine if you were, I mean, it's a horrendous thought, but imagine if you were a Spurs fan and you were watching Spurs in a semi-final of Europa League. And it was the same situation. They needed a goal to go through. It was the last 10 minutes. And they bring off Harry Kane, and they bring on like Højbjerg, whose name I can't pronounce very well, or Bergevin, or someone like this. Did I just call Bergevin? Well, he's Bergevin now. So yeah, Bergevin comes on. I don't think he scored any goals this season. You would be smart people. Sometimes Arteta makes decisions where you can say, I completely disagree with that decision, but I can kind of see what he's doing. I don't agree with his ethos, but I can kind of see what he's doing, i.e. the false 9 in the first leg, terrible decision, but you can kind of see what he's doing. He's trying to be tricky. He's trying to do something that the opposition will find surprising and not know how to work with and not have prepared for. So you can kind of see there's some kind of logic there. Similarly, he's made substitutions in the past where you can kind of see, okay, maybe he's brought off somebody who's playing really well in the game, but he's brought on someone who's kind of also on a good run of form, or he's brought on a Martinelli or someone like this. So you can kind of see the logic in it. But to bring off Aubameyang, who's just hit the post, who's full of confidence, who's sharp, amazingly sharp, considering what the guy's just been through, and to bring on Willian, to not even bring on Balogun, to have two, brings me to another point, to have two goalkeepers on the bench, and to not have Balogun on the bench. You could have brought, if he'd have brought on, this is what I'm saying about there's some logic. He could have brought Aubameyang off and brought Balogun on. Would have disagreed with that, but at least you could have seen some kind of logic to it. It's another striker. Balogun's been good in the Europa League when he's played him. Balogun looks like a quality player for the future. He looks like a goal scorer. He's athletic. He's strong. He could do something. What the fuck is Willian going to do? What the fuck did he do? There was one point where we got to, I don't know, it was like the 91st minute, and the ball was passed to Willian, sort of, who was out on the left in a lot of space, and had the chance to cross it in. Willian's just come on. He's just fucking come on, and he barely moves towards the ball. He kind of shuffles towards the ball. No urgency at all. I mean, I ain't necessarily a conspiracy theorist, but what the hell, this guy coming from Chelsea and just like doing his uttermost to play with abject shit is just beyond me. But we've got 2 years of this guy left as well. Let that sink in. There's 2 years of Willian left. Can you imagine when the fans, like Arteta talks about the fans, we need the fans back. Can you imagine the reception that Willian is going to get? Can you imagine the reception he would have got if fans were there at the Emirates as well, not even at Villareal, at the Emirates Stadium, at a full Emirates Stadium, 60,000 people. If Arteta had the sheer audacity, I mean, the balls of this guy, honestly, crazy set of balls, to sling Aubameyang, having just hit the post in front of 60,000 fans and bring Willian on. Can you imagine the reaction to that? I wouldn't mind seeing that just for the entertainment, but Christ almighty, 2 more years of this guy. What can we do to get 200 grand a week? I think it's 230 grand. Oh God, I don't even want to think about that. That's horrendous. We were unlucky to twice hit the post, sure, but really we should be saying we're unlucky not to have won by more. Hitting the post a couple of times shouldn't be an excuse to have gone out. Oh well, I'll wrap this up soon because it's like, it's not great, is it? It's not great, but it's like a bit of therapy to talk about it, I suppose. I have no faith in this club to sack him before Christmas. I think he's going to last till about Christmas. This stuff will continue into the next season. Clearly, fans should be back. Fans will probably get on his back. There'll be more protests, and they'll quicken his departure. But he's going to stay. I don't want that. I want us to break the bank. I know it's expensive, but get a Conte and get a Simeone in. It's still cheaper than getting. Well, it's on a year-to-year basis. It can be likened to getting in sort of a £50 million player each year. Say, for example, Simeone's contract is worth 50 million a year. So you could look at it in the sense of it being like buying a £50 million player every year for 3 years, which is not out of the realms of possibility for Arsenal, even in these COVID times. I mean, I know that billionaires don't have billions of pounds in the bank technically. I mean, this is a bit of a misunderstanding with billionaires. They don't have like that money sat around that they can like take out or whatever. It's all in assets usually. But don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. Kroenke can put some money down if he wants to. And I think there is a bit of light. A couple of things I wanted to touch on as well, actually. It seems like there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel in two senses. One is more of a realistic sense. Another is more of a hopeful sense. The hopeful sense is that with the noise as loud as it is at the moment, with the protests and Arsenal as bad as they are, we've never seen this. Not since this is the worst season since '95, since we finished 12th, and it was the 9 from the halfway line season. No Tottenham fans have mentioned this yet. We are having the worst season. The last time we had a season like this, it was Naeem from the halfway line. If I was a Spurs fan, I would be on that and reminding Arsenal fans of that. Don't tell them, though. I mean, this is only on the internet, so hopefully no one will notice. But yeah, with that in mind, it could, and this is still the hopeful one, it could prompt Kroenke to be a bit more active, and with his links, with Josh's links, that are a bit closer to the fans in terms of the supporters' trust anyway. It could encourage them to be a bit more proactive and spend a bit more money, i.e. get the manager as well as the players. I mean, don't get me wrong. The overarching problem are the Kroenkes. The overarching problems are down to the Kroenkes. They need to go. Someone like Eck needs to come in, who's clearly a fan. It's a risk, but at the moment, you just take it. Anyone but Kroenke at the moment. But I'm kind of pessimistic about that, to be honest. I think it's very, very difficult to get owners out. So I think at least let's get Arteta out. Let's get an experienced manager in, spend a bit of dollar on that, spend a bit of dollar on players, really flex our muscles, because we can flex our muscles. We just haven't been flexing them properly. And at least try to move at the team level, try to move that forward while still banging the Kroenke out drum. I mean, that might be a little bit difficult in terms of there's a bit of a juxtaposition there. Wanting him to spend shitloads of money, but wanting him to leave. But hey, look, let's see what happens. The more practical one I was thinking of that makes me think there's a bit of a silver lining is that this is rock bottom for Arsenal now. This is rock bottom. It won't get. Oh God, I shouldn't have said that, should I? But it really should not get much worse than this, or any worse than this. Actually, this should be we're at the bedrock now. We're right on the ground. ground floor. We can't go into the basement, because the basement means relegation. And we are not going to do a Leeds. We've been compared to Leeds, I know, but look, that's not going to happen. This team is not going to fall any lower than this. We've seen this is what Arteta can do. This is basically the minimum that he can do. So we're not going to drop any lower than this. So in other words, the only way is up from here. So that's kind of how I'm trying to look at it, because we've got to try and find some kind of solace out of this season, and God knows how else we can do that. I mean, I've no faith in him improving players. This is another thing that's going to say, oh, if he gets the players, he needs another transfer window. He needs to get his players in. Well, let's have a look at that, actually, before I go. I mean, he got Partey in. He's now playing. Partey's a box-to-box midfielder, and he plays him at defensive midfield, and everyone wonders why he looks shit. I mean, he was shit against Villareal generally in terms of his first touch, his passing. But in terms of the overall job that he has to do, his job isn't to be a defensive midfielder. His job is to be a box-to-box. And he's been played as a DM, and it doesn't make any sense. So he got his player in Partey, made him worse. He's got various other players in. He's got Cedric in. He got Spias in. Hasn't worked. I'm not convinced that he can get his players in, better players in. And also, let's look at the players that Emery blooded. Your Tierney's, Smith Rowe, Saka. All quality players. We're not moving forward with them. They're not. Obviously, they've been playing well. They've been our best players this season. I still think Smith Rowe has a little bit to go, but certainly Saka and Tierney have been extremely effective players. We're still 10th. We're still out the Europa League semi-final. Aubameyang's got worse this season. I know, obviously, malaria that recently, but over the course of the season, been much worse. Lacazette has been average. Sporadic at best. Xhaka's Xhaka, and he won't play Martinelli. So how you can't convince me that if he gets even more good quality players in, that he can do anything. I mean, sure, I guess if you shoved like 11 world-class players into the Arsenal team, then he might be able to do something. But then I could do something with 11 world-class players at Arsenal. So I don't know, man. It all points to a real backward, and I think I'll sort of end on this point. I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, even before we were close to going out, that think about the backward logic of the board. You have an Unai Emery. He's won the Europa League 3 times. He's got some kind of pedigree. He's very well respected in Spain. He's just come from PSG. He's got experience of managing highest level players, egos and personalities of the highest order. He comes with a proper CV, so you can understand his appointment. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong, but you can understand the logic behind why they've appointed a guy like that. It wasn't anyone's first choice. We wanted someone on the elite bracket, but you could understand and you could see how it might work. Then it doesn't work out, so you sack him. Fine. But then you go to the other end of the spectrum and you get a guy who's got no experience of managing a first team. He's literally been an assistant. Where is that is the backward logic of that is absolutely astounding. You get the guy who has pedigree of winning 3 Europa Leagues, managing PSG, etc. That doesn't work. So instead of trying to get someone better than him, someone more experienced, someone with more pedigree, which would be surely the logical idea, you go and get somebody who's a complete novice. You go backwards, not even just backwards, you go way back. If you go way back to the starting line, it beggars. It just goes to show you that, number one, they're tight as fuck because they needed to get someone in on the cheap, and number two, well, no, one, they're tight as fuck. Number two, they want control. They want a yes man, and Arteta is so the yes man. He is the company guy. You just need to watch him in his interviews and his press conferences and all that kind of stuff. He's such a company guy, kind of like Wenger is. He's kind of like a Wenger Mark II. Emery wasn't, and I think that's a big that as well as all the media attention and the way the fans were and the way the players down tools. He's kind of like the fact that he wasn't a company man, and that he would literally just come out in his press conference and talk about how the board was not giving him money, how he didn't have money to play with. And he was kind of just like, at points, just like, literally in press conferences going, well, what do you expect me to do? I haven't got the players that I want. I don't have the money to get the players that I want. So realistically, can anybody sort of tell me what I'm supposed to do? Which is fair enough, really. And it's good to see that kind of honesty from somebody, from the manager. But you don't get that from Arteta. I stopped watching Arteta press conferences a long time ago. It all started with the Ozil situation. I actually made a comment on Haters TV. Big up Haters TV is good content on that channel. But at the time, it was the situation with Ozil and making the tweet about the Uyghur Muslims, sorry, in China, and there was a whole kind of like he was dropped, and there was like whispers and discussion about like why he was dropped and all this kind of stuff. And Arteta's press conference after that had kicked off, it made him seem like such a politician. I mean, I can't quote exactly what he said, but I remember watching it and thinking, wow, you are really just towing the party line here. You're not saying what you think. And look, he was brand new to the job. You don't expect him to come out and start kind of hammering the owners in the Ozil situation or any situation. But he offers nothing really he doesn't seem to offer anything of his own thoughts. It's almost like he's just programmed. They program him, send him out there. It's like some little AI type thing that they just put a little program in to answer the questions in a certain way, send him out, boom, if he does his job, back he goes, they recharge him. So, AI Arteta, that's what it is. But I wish it was goodbye Arteta, because like it needs to be. This club just shows that it's not the mentality, like I mentioned before, from the fans. They've lost that elite mentality. We need to get that back. And I think it's kind of coming back. The fact that we've got people protesting, there's so many people protesting, that is a good sign in terms of getting that mentality back. But also the club needs to demonstrate it as well. The club needs to demonstrate. Look, if Tuchel's coming to Chelsea, he's done what we needed someone to come in to do at Arsenal in place of Arteta. But and a lot of Arsenal fans didn't want him. I was kind of like, my reaction to Tuchel was, okay, let's give him a try. But a lot of people didn't want him for some reason. I don't know why, but we can see that he picked the first Chelsea team. I think he picked the first Chelsea team that he ever picked on the plane. So that was kind of amusing to hear that story. But you can see that like with a bold decision like that from the ownership, it can pay dividends. And but that comes from having that elite mindset. But our board doesn't have that elite mindset. Our board has the mindset more of like, how is the club doing financially? How are the accounts? And I'm just hoping, like I alluded to earlier, I'm just hoping that now that the money has gone from Europe, that maybe this might give them a bit of a kick to reinvest, spend money to make money sort of idea. But at the same time, want them to leave. So how is that exactly going to work? I don't know. Answers on the postcard. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. It seems like wishful thinking doesn't even quite cover it. I'm coming up to 40 minutes. I haven't had a drink of water, so I should probably do that at some point soon. So big ups to everyone who's been watching and tuned in. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, share this stuff. I'll be probably coming back later today or tomorrow with a couple of vids, one of which I suppose has to be an Arsenal West Brom preview. Previewing what? Previewing what exactly? I don't know. The only thing I hope, two things I hope from the rest of the season, is that we use the time to rest players who've been fucked up like Tierney, or who've been overplayed like Saka and Smith Rowe, who don't look so good the last few games, mainly because they've been overplayed. And we blood some youngsters and just try to, because if Arteta's going to be here, which it looks like he's going to be here, now is pre-season. Now is basically pre-season starts now. Let's start looking at what lineup we're going to do. I mean, off the top of my head, I'll do a proper one tomorrow, but off the top of my head, I will probably have a really changed lineup. How's Bellerin got shoehorned his way back in the team, like wangled his way back in the team? Like, how has that happened? He just has one good game against Newcastle. I mean, I could have a good game at right back against Newcastle. They were fucking appalling that day. Anyway, I wouldn't have him. I'd have Ryan in goal. Why not? Might as well. I would have. God, it makes it. I would probably have Cedric at right back. Yeah, have Cedric at right back. Luis is probably injured, so I don't want Holding. Don't want Mari. Yeah, going with Holding and Mari against Villareal, like the two that played so badly in the first leg, you play them again in the second leg. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Chambers and Gabriel, because they look good against Newcastle. Yes, shit Newcastle, but at least there was some coherence. You can see coherence there. I'm going to rest Tierney. I don't know how I'm going to play at left back. I'll tell you what. Let's just. I want to double check something. I am thinking basically of putting. I can't remember his name. This is a very unhelpful website, and it's the Arsenal website, to be fair. Man, I don't even know. I can't think of his name, but I would put one of the youngsters at left back. Man, his name has just escaped me, but I would rest Tierney. I wouldn't have Cedric there. I wouldn't have Xhaka there at all. So, no way, man. Into midfield, I would probably have. I would not have Partey or Xhaka. I might even play on Nenny and Aziz, to be honest. I think that would be worth a try. And then, so that's what we've got 6. So on the in front of them, man, you might as well play. Yeah, play Odegaard. Don't play Smith Rowe. Give him a rest. Odegaard won't be here next season. I don't particularly want him. Like, he is a good player, obviously, but you can see why he doesn't start for Real Madrid. And we need to be looking. We need to have that elite mentality back, and we need to be looking for elite players, proper elite players. But yeah, have him in the team against West Brom. Who cares? Don't have Smith Rowe, so he has to go in there. Stick Martinelli on the left, even though he's someone for next season and he has been injured. He just hasn't had a lot of game time, so yeah, put him in. On the right, probably put Reece Nelson in there. We haven't seen him at all season, really, and give him a run out. I would stick Ober up front still because he's. I still think he's trying to gain match fitness. He needs a run of games, get him a few goals before the end of the season, so at least he can round the season off with a bit of goal scoring confidence. I would definitely have. Oh my God, if Balogun isn't on the bench, if Balogun is not on the bench, having just signed a new contract, having just been persuaded to sign a new contract, if he's not on the bench against West Brom in a game that's a dead rubber of a game, where you can experiment, where you can put kids in to give them game time and experience and hopefully goals, and have them play in games which is gonna just give them a better understanding of what it's like to play in the Premier League against teams like West Brom, who are going to be stubborn and difficult. I mean, do it. So I think, give Ober an hour or so, bring Balogun on, and then just have a bench that is just like, littered with youngsters. Put a ton of youngsters on the bench. I don't really care about even having Lacazette on the bench or Partey on the bench, or definitely don't play any of the players who are going, like your Ceballos, your Bellerin. They shouldn't be anywhere near the team anymore. And one last thing I think was really damning, we definitely will finish on now, was the fact that they sent Leno out. I mean, I was just thinking, is Leno a player that's going to go? Should we not play him because he might go? Because of those rumours that were going around last week. But to send Leno out to face the press after Villareal showed such a should just sort of summed up how spineless this team is. Because Aubameyang, as captain, should act like captain and lead from the front, and he should be the one coming out and facing the media. But no, not him, not even Hecky B, not even the vice captain. Apparently, it seems. They send out Leno, arguably the guy who can't really come under any criticism because he made vital saves in the first game and he kept a clean sheet in this game. So, what can you say to him? You can't really berate him, or at least if you do, I mean, he's just going to be able to kind of like deflect it off because he himself, it's not really if any criticisms of the team in that game are not going to affect him because he knows he played well. So it's just, you know, someone out there as a shield to sort of deflect things, and he was the most competent shield, which is just horrendously cowardly from the club. And I think that just kind of summed everything up. Aubameyang should have been out there, but we know, as much as, you know, we love Aubameyang for what he's done over the past couple of seasons, that was kind of like, that was just appalling that he didn't come out. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, smash me a like, subscribe and share. I will be back, like I say, later today and early tomorrow as well. Hope you enjoyed the chat. Big ups, everyone. See you next time.